Electric vehicles has become a buzzword in 2023 with India sales charging past 1.5 million units in 2023 alone, showing a stellar growth in all segments, from two-wheelers to three-wheelers to cars to SUVs, goods vehicles to buses. EV sales were encouraging on all fronts as the shift to electric mobility picked pace in 2023 with sales growth of 46% year-on-year. India is gearing up to beat its past record. This begs the question, will government continue subsidizing EVs? Remember, the government had launched FAME 2 scheme in 2019 with a budget of 10,000 crore rupees. By December of 2023, over 12 lakh vehicles had been subsidized, costing 5,422 crore rupees. The Ministry of Heavy Industries is now set to be working on the third phase of faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles of FAME 3. The ministry is looking to allocate 26,400 crore rupees for FAME 3, with subsidy for electric two-wheelers getting around 8,000 crore rupees. Electric buses are likely to get 9,600 crore rupees, and electric three-wheelers may get 4,000 crore rupees. All in all, FAME 3 likely to further subsidize India's EV segment and could spell that EVs will continue to be perhaps little less costly in 2024. Joining us on the show is Sai Giridhar, Secretary of FADA. Kartik Malhotra continues to be with me. Sai, thank you for taking time out. I want to first begin by asking you, as far as the numbers of 1.5 million units sold in 2023 is concerned, is that in line with what was estimated at the start of the year? And what is the estimate for 2024? What sort of figures are you looking in sales for electric vehicles?
So, hi, thank you for hosting me today. So, as you rightly said, as far as electric is the future for us, and we know that dependence on fossil fuel should be limited, and we should be looking at alternative arrangements for transportation and for commuting from one place to another. And as far as electric is concerned, government definitely plays an important role, and the FAME subsidy is one of the key parameters for the growth in the segment. And yes, you rightly said the electric segment is growing. In fact, I have the data with me from January till November. These are the registration figures. If we talk about overall, the electric segment has grown by 50%, more than 50%, in fact. If you talk about the overall industry, as far as automobile industry is concerned, so the growth was close to 10% overall, if you consider ICE and BEV together. But if you consider only and only BEV vehicles, the growth is more than 50%. If you take segment-wise, three-wheeler is one segment wherein we've seen the fastest adoption rate. So as on day, overall close to 53% of the two-wheelers which are sold are electric in the segment, and then it's followed by a two-wheeler which is close to 5%. So definitely the growth is there in the entire segment, electric.
All right, the growth is in the entire segment. You know, one of the debates in 2023 that perhaps we also delve into, Kartik, was should government take the subsidy route? So should they make it cheaper for someone to own electric vehicle, or should they make it more lucrative for them to own electric vehicle, which is to put infrastructure in place? And I think we all came at a consensus that both should go hand in hand.
I know, but will the government be able to afford both is the million-dollar question. In fact, a 26,000 crore rupee question actually right now. So, Shweta, I think, effort obviously has to be put on both sides. Which of the two should the government subsidize and prioritize is something that the government will have to work the math and figure out how much can they afford and what is the real need right now. Now, look at, let's say, there is FAME 2, which made affordability of electric two-wheelers far more easier for most people because of the subsidy of up to 50,000 rupees per vehicle. Now, if the same amount was, instead of giving that amount in the pockets of the people who are buying electric vehicles, if the same amount, 10,000 crore rupees, was used to make the charging infrastructure that much more efficient and that much more easier to come by for two-wheeler owners, then perhaps a very natural organic pickup in the EV sector, not just for two-wheelers, but even for four-wheelers, when you talk about end consumers, might have taken off better.
Okay.
Now, let's see what is happening in the rest of the world. Now, for the first time, we've seen an electric manufacturing car company called BYD has beaten Tesla with its total number of electric vehicles being sold, right? I was recently in Singapore, and in Singapore, all the cab sharing apps that I was using, Grab being one of them, where anytime I would book a taxi, I think easily 7 out of 10 cars that arrived to pick me up were either electric or hybrid. So that brings to the next question, which is a better model for India? Are we looking at electric mobility pure play as electric, or is hybrid the route that we want to take as far as our electric ambitions go?
Or should it be a mix of two?
Or, yeah, so I think the investment will have to be made disproportionately in one versus the other. What do we really want to build? If we really want to invest in a lot of electric highways, then the focus of the government has to be electric and electric only. Then forget hybrid. But FAME, by definition, includes electric mobility
as well
and
as
hybrid. Now, the questions that arise for pure electric mobility is that until we reach that 100 gigawatts of renewable energy in our power grids, then electric vehicles are still going to continue to be pollutants because they are still reliant on thermal energy as compared to hybrid vehicles, which still use petrol as the main source of fuel, but give so much better efficiency that the emission and the usage of petrol is that much lower that it becomes more environmentally friendly.
Right.
Now, specifically on four-wheelers, the government has given a tax subsidy, both on the custom duty when you're importing machinery to build electric vehicles, and tax SOPs up to, if I'm not mistaken, 1,50,000 rupees for individuals who go ahead and buy an electric vehicle. So I believe the government has subsidized the sector enough, and the learnings from FAME 2, which resulted in confusion over manufacturers on whether batteries need to also be made in India or imported and yet avail of the subsidy. I think the government first needs to get its definition very, very clearly articulated to manufacturers so that there is no confusion on the government first doling out the subsidy and then trying to recover it back. And that should be the lesson it learns from FAME 2. But I think FAME 3, to my mind, needs to first understand, should it be electric or should it be hybrid, and hence subsidize either manufacturing or post sales of only that one particular focus area, not subsidize everything.
Okay. Sai, I don't know if you have the numbers with you, but if you could quickly also run us through what are the sales figures for hybrid versus electric, pure play electric versus hybrid, just so as to put this into context of what are people actually buying.
I'm sorry, I don't have the figures for the hybrid, because hybrid, again, the definition is a bit confusing in the sense that there are mild hybrids, there are strong hybrids in India, and I would probably agree with what Kartik is saying, that we need to prioritize what we want to do in India. So our take is it's not supposed to be only electric. So if it's electric, so we need to pick the segment in which we want to go 100% electric. Say, for example, conversion in two-wheeler segment, be going 100% electric would be far more easier than doing the same in passenger vehicle. If you see the developed markets across the world, even in the passenger vehicle segment, even till date, even those markets have not been able to do the kind of conversion which they are looking at in the passenger vehicle segments. So we need to prioritize which segment we want. And apart from hybrid and electric, I think we should be even talking about the ethanol, the blend of ethanol which is there. So we've seen places like, if we talk about Brazil, wherein they run their vehicles 100% on ethanol. So today we are talking about a blend of 20%, which going ahead, which the Indian government has, in fact, they have reduced the timeline for for the conversion from 10% to 20%. So
the blending, yes.
We'll be doing it in 2025 now instead of 27. So what I think is that it should be a blend of everything. So even if we talk about hydrogen, so hydrogen is also one technology which probably would be coming in the world in next or be couple of years. And hydrogen is one technology which could probably help doing especially for the commercial vehicles, with the vehicles which are doing more than 300 kilometers a day. So, so it would depend on the usage of the vehicle which we are talking about, and probably with the length and breadth of our country and the kind of number of vehicles which are being sold in our country. I think it should not be dependent on only electric. It has to be a blend of a mix of everything, which is
Understood.
available.
And when we talk about electric, I think the focus needs to also be on finding new batteries outside of the lithium-ion ecosystem,
Absolutely.
which KPIT with its sodium-ion batteries, for example, is looking at testing sometime this year. So
Right.
things that materials, minerals which are available in India to make in India
Easily
and
available.
making in India more
Easily mined, easily available, because
Absolutely.
mining is
And
also
cheaper.
adding to
So all of
pollution
is
for
also
that
adding to
matter.
pollution. So
You
I think
know,
we need to be clear on which technology should we focus on rather than just blindly dishing out subsidies.
you know, it's interesting because I've been a part of the Leaders of Road Transport Conclave from TV9, and one of the learnings that I've had, having spoken to transporters, truckers, people who are in the road transport sector in 3 states now, is that no matter what policy government is making or doling out at the center, the realization at the bottom is absolutely nothing when it comes to, especially when it comes to commercial vehicles.
Right.
So I've hardly come across somebody who actually has a commercial vehicle fleet, barring 1 or 2 startups whose only idea of the startup is to have a commercial vehicle
an EV
fleet.
fleet.
An EV fleet, they say, is extremely expensive at the moment, very, very difficult to, you know, you've got to put up that initial capital. You've got to
And then 50%
take the hit on your margins.
50% of the cost is the battery.
Absolutely.
So if you don't really have a clear policy on battery swapping, is that ever going to work? Because not every vehicle will have the same battery size, battery capacity. So I think battery swapping is something the government needs to be very, very clear on. Is it a go area or a no-go area?
Absolutely. And you know, you make it cheaper initially in order to get more customers, but at the end of it, plying an EV vehicle on road is more expensive at the moment as opposed to plying an ICE engine vehicle on road.
When you look at the capital
When you look at
as
the
well as the
capital
running cost.
invested as opposed to the running cost. So all of that would also need to be taken into consideration. You know, Sai, before I let you go, perhaps my last question to you would be, looking at all the data points right now and having spoken to, I'm sure, all the players in industry, what is your ask of FAME 3? If the government is still making the policy, they're still finalizing the contours, what should they definitely include or should not include?
So it has to be a mix of everything. That's what I probably would request the government to do. So it has to do with giving subsidy also, because we've seen what happened in two-wheeler industry. So the moment they reduced the subsidy, it had a direct impact on the retails of electric vehicles. So I think it is a very tricky thing for the government to decide. But what we personally believe is that it has to be the right blend. They need to find the right mix of everything. So we need to have the infrastructure also ready, infrastructure which is actually being properly maintained. So today we've seen that most of the electric charging stations are defunct. They're 80% of the charging stations which were set up earlier are not being used, because
we have 2 examples
it's again,
on the
it's
roadside
a
across our
catch-22
office.
situation.
In fact, if you take that turn outside our office in sector 125 Noida,
They're both defunct?
there are 2 defunct charging stations. So
Absolutely.
I mean, I
Fair
think
point.
Sai is absolutely right in his observation.
So we need to understand why those charging stations are defunct. Those charging stations are defunct because they don't have the required number of vehicles coming to that place for getting charged. So the cost of running those charging stations is not viable for the person who has set up those stations. So you need to do a helping hand for those people who are setting up these stations, because it has to be blend of everything. So you cannot leave things for granted that probably in coming years everything will happen. If these charging stations are being set up and if they turn out to be different, then again it becomes a deterrent for people, especially in passenger vehicle segment, for going ahead and buying those vehicles, because you cannot buy a vehicle only for your city drive. It has to be city and intercity drive, everything it has to cover.
Absolutely. It has to be more valuable than driving it for fun and joy. It has to be more economical for everybody, because in India, people prefer economy, people prefer goods and stuff that they can afford but can also last with them. for a longer run of time. Sai, as much as I would like to have this conversation any further, I can't. I've run out of time. But thank you so much. We hope to get you back very, very soon. It is as interesting as it gets, and I believe it is capturing imagination of the people all across India. People buying, taking to EVs more than ever in 2023. Will 2024 be the year of the EVs? We don't know. We hope so.